The following presentation is offered to the public as an introduction to handgun shooting. It is not intended to be a substitute for instruction from a certified firearm instructor. It is recommended that the viewers understand how handguns function and review the basic firearm safety rules before proceeding. Due to the extensive amount of information in this video, viewers should watch the entire program more than once and not pass any section without fully understanding the information presented. The New Mexico Cooperative Extension Service, Federal Cartridge Company, Smith & Wesson, and Daisy Manufacturing Company, Incorporated present Basic Handgun Shooting, a Better Way. Millions of people enjoy the shooting sports, both for recreation and in competition. Some use their skills in hunting, others shoot targets. Still others participate in competition at the national, international, or even Olympic levels. Shooting sports attract thousands of new participants every year. Regardless of individual motivations, it is important to learn the basics of handgun shooting to assure a safe, fun, and rewarding experience. In this video presentation, the basics of handgun shooting will be explained through a step-by-step process that teaches handgun shooting with a safe and responsible approach. Watch and listen carefully, and you will gain a better understanding of the fundamentals of successful handgun shooting. Remember, this video is not intended to act as a substitute for instruction from an experienced and qualified instructor. By understanding and practicing the concepts in this video, and by seeking instruction from a qualified teacher, you can enjoy handgun shooting as a lifelong sport. To learn to shoot a handgun successfully, you should know the important parts and understand how they function. There are different kinds of handguns: revolvers, semi-automatic pistols, and single-shot pistols that shoot either BBs, pellets, rimfire, or centerfire ammunition. With a revolver, the cartridges are loaded into a cylinder that rotates each time you pull the trigger or pull the hammer back. This action places an unfired cartridge under the hammer for another shot. Semi-automatic pistols are self-loading, using rimfire or centerfire ammunition. This means that each time you pull the trigger, the pistol fires. Energy generated by the cartridge discharging forces the slide to the rear, ejecting the fired case. As the slide is pushed forward by a recoil spring, it picks up another cartridge from the magazine and moves it forward into the chamber, leaving the pistol ready to fire. Air pistols use compressed gas or air instead of gunpowder to shoot pellets or BBs. There are several methods of air compression, including CO2 cylinders that release compressed carbon dioxide for each shot, pump action compression, where the shooter compresses the air with a pump lever before each shot, and the spring air, which employs the release of a compressed spring to generate the air pressure. Although revolvers, semi-automatic, and single-shot pistols function differently, they do have some parts in common. A handgun is divided into three parts: the grip, the action, and the barrel. Each part performs an important function. The grip serves as a handle to hold or control the handgun. This ensures the muzzle will be pointed in a safe direction. The action includes the parts that load, cock, and fire the handgun. The main parts of the revolver are the cylinder, hammer, and trigger. The main parts of the semi-automatic pistol are the slide, hammer, and trigger. The trigger mechanism releases the firing pin, hammer, or air charge. The safety mechanism is a device that aids the shooter in keeping the handgun from firing until the shooter is ready to fire. The safety device should be left in the on or safe position until you are ready to fire. The safety is a mechanical device and can fail, so be careful. Do not depend on them to prevent accidental firing. The barrel is simply the launching tube a projectile passes through. The rear sight and front sight are used to align the eye with the barrel. Throughout its length, the barrel is rifled. The rifling is a spiraling set of lands and grooves. Rifling causes the bullet to rotate around its long axis, making it more stable in flight. Now that you are familiar with the parts of the handgun, it is very important to learn and apply the basic rules of handgun safety. Treat every firearm as if it were loaded. Always point the muzzle in a safe direction. Keep the action open until you are ready to fire. Keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to shoot. Always wear safety glasses and hearing protection when shooting. The basic principle of shooting is that the projectile will hit where the muzzle is pointed when the handgun is fired. There are two important fundamentals of shooting: sight alignment and trigger control. When aligning the sights, the dominant eye should always be used. Almost everyone has a dominant eye. To determine which is your dominant eye, you'll need a partner. In this exercise, you'll be the shooter and your partner will be the observer. Face your partner standing 2 or 3 arm lengths apart. Clasp your hands together with one thumb on top of the other. Leave a small hole about the size of a quarter. Straighten your arms and raise them to eye level until your partner's nose can be seen through the opening. Your partner will note which eye is seen through the hole. This is your dominant eye. Try the exercise again to confirm your findings. Then, switch roles to determine your partner's dominant eye. Now let's get back to the fundamentals of sight alignment. It's the relationship between the eye, the rear sight, and the front sight. To obtain proper sight alignment, focus on the front sight and then align it with the rear sight. You'll have the correct sight alignment when the front sight is centered in the rear sight notch and the top of the front sight is even with the top of the rear sight. The key to sight alignment is consistency from the shooter. Modern technology has provided us with a variety of optical sights that can improve our shooting. Telescopic sights eliminate the need for sight alignment and allow for more precise aiming than with open sights. Once you understand sight alignment, you must combine it with trigger control to be successful. Trigger control is the process of gently applying pressure to the trigger without changing the sight alignment. Flinching or jerking as the trigger is squeezed will keep sights from being aligned. To practice proper sight alignment, try a dry firing exercise. But have patience. It will take time to perfect sight alignment. The next step in the shooting process is follow-through. Hold the handgun steady with the sights in alignment and keep pressure on the trigger for a moment after firing. While dry firing, remember to practice the firearm safety rules at all times. A good way to learn the basics of shooting a handgun properly is to begin with an air pistol. Air pistols can be used indoors. They are less expensive. They can be used for dry firing. There is no noise or recoil which can cause flinching. You don't need to use ear protection, and there is no need for dummy ammunition. If an air pistol is not available, the same basic elements can be taught using dummy ammunition with rimfire or centerfire handguns. Success with an air pistol will encourage the shooter to move on to a rimfire or centerfire handgun. There are 3 standing positions, but for now, we'll start from the sitting position, which allows the beginning shooter the most stability. Sit behind a bench or table with your shoulders squared to the target. Hold the pistol in your non-shooting hand and place it firmly in the rear of your shooting hand between the thumb and forefinger. Hold the grip with the lower 3 fingers and get a firm, high hold. Wrap your non-shooting hand around the shooting hand to help steady the handgun. You can also use a sandbag or some other kind of rest for support. We'll be dry firing at target backs. A blank target is less distracting and forces the shooter to focus on the front sight and concentrate on sight alignment. It also helps trigger control development. Focus on the front sight and carefully align the sights. The aligned sights are pointed at the center of the target back. The trigger is squeezed while keeping the sights aligned throughout the shot. Practice proper sight alignment and trigger control by repeating this dry fire exercise several times until you feel comfortable with the handgun. Now it's time to start live firing the air pistol. Get into the proper shooting position. Pump the air gun, and your coach will load 1 pellet at a time. Aim at the center of the target back. Pull the trigger straight back without disturbing sight alignment. Repeat this exercise several times, usually firing 3 to 5 shot groups. If the shots hit the target in a consistent group or cluster, you're now applying the proper basics of shooting. When the hits are grouped in a small area, say 1 to 3 inches in diameter, you're ready to shoot at the bullseye target face. The bullseye adds a new element to shooting: sight picture. Sight picture is the relationship between aligned sights and the bullseye. Sight picture is the process of keeping aligned sights aimed at the bottom of the bullseye. The front sight should be in focus, while the bullseye and the rear sight will be slightly blurred. Fire 3 to 5 shots at the bullseye using the same load and fire routine as before. Also, use the same sight picture method every time a shot is fired. Once sight picture is learned and your groups are tight, a sight adjustment can be made if necessary to center the hits in the bullseye. Always move the rear sight in the same direction that the hits on the target should move. For example, if the shots are hitting low and to the right, move the sight up and to the left. After making a sight adjustment, fire 5 shots to see where the bullets are hitting. If they still aren't hitting the center of the target, make another sight adjustment. Now we're ready to move to the standing positions. The first is the isosceles. Take your stance square to the line without the handgun. Stand with your feet about shoulder width apart. Your weight should be evenly balanced on both feet. Now, extend your arms and raise them to the shooting position. Your back will arch back slightly for balance. Practice this technique several times without your handgun. Now, practice the isosceles position with the handgun. The second position is the weaver. Assume a boxer's stance with your feet shoulder width apart. Knees are locked. Firing arm is slightly bent. Support arm is sharply bent and held firmly against the body. Firing arm pushes out. Support arm pulls in. Practice this technique several times without the handgun. Then, several times with the handgun. The final standing position is the one hand. With your feet shoulder width apart, position your body with your shooting arm pointed towards the target. Move your feet until your shooting arm is pointed directly at the target. Your legs should be straight with your head held erect. The shooting arm is fully extended with the wrist and elbow locked in place. Your other hand is relaxed in a pocket or hooked in a belt or waistband. Again, practice a few times without the handgun. Then, a few times with the handgun. Now you're ready for shooting rimfire or centerfire ammunition. When first using live ammo, load only 1 round at a time. Always remember to keep the muzzle pointed downrange at all times. Use the same method to shoot rimfire or centerfire handguns as you used to shoot air pistols. Mastering any shooting sport takes many hours of practice. Handgun shooting is fun, and it's a family activity enjoyed by people of all ages. Handguns are used for hunting, recreational shooting, or in a variety of competitions. To make sure your shooting experience will be a great one, simply remember to always follow the safety rules previously discussed in this video when using any type of firearm.